I'm vegan and have been for over 5 years. I'm lucky to live in a major city with a plethora of entirely or partially vegan restaurants, but when I visit my family in rural Pennsylvania, my options become non-existent. Attitudes towards veganism here range from ignorance to outright hostility. I try to avoid eating out with my family when I'm home at all costs, but sometimes it's unavoidable. For example, my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner. My sister had her dinner at the foremost fine dining establishment in this town, a big old tavern that bills itself as a French-influenced steakhouse. Menu fare is every imaginable cut of steak, drowned in butter, with some chicken and fish drowned in butter, plus sides of veggies and mashed potatoes that are smothered in butter. The 1 or 2 vegetarian dishes are buttered and drowned in a creamy sauce. Given that my little brother used to wait tables here, I know they frown upon substitutions and don't use much veggie oil for quality. I've had 2 negative experiences here too. I tried to explain my vegan diet my first time here in depth, yet my sad little plate of steamed broccoli was drizzled with butter and my iceberg lettuce salad came with ranch. The second time, a chef came out personally and promised me that his tomato pasta dish was vegan, only for me to find that they'd swirled Parmesan cheese into the red sauce to disguise that they'd accidentally sprinkled it on top. That incident broke my trust completely. For my sister's dinner, I told the chef that I have life-threatening food allergies to meat proteins, dairy, including butter, and eggs. Finally, they took me seriously. I was served a dish of plain pasta with salt and pepper with fruit, which sucked, but I appreciated the consideration. For those allergies, though, they had to scrub down the entire kitchen, clean the fryers, check the ingredient lists of their products, etc. That prep cost them an extra 2 hours, and I didn't realize this. They charged my parents, who were paying for the rehearsal, an additional several hundred for their time. My sister and parents are livid. I already sent my mom the several hundred needed to cover the extra cost, but they're upset at me for lying and humiliating the chef and restaurant to whom they have close ties. My sister's wedding is this weekend and something tells me it will be tense. I think that if this restaurant continues with its ignorance, they got what they deserve. Am I the idiot for ensuring my needs are met? You are the idiot, and this got me. I think that if this restaurant continues with its ignorance, they got what they deserve. This sort of attitude is what makes people hate vegans. It's a steakhouse in an area where you admitted that veganism isn't considered a big thing. They probably don't have easy means to make a vegan meal and don't get many requests like this. You even said when they tried it wasn't that great. Since you've had previous issues with this place, you could have called them in advance and been blunt about what you can't eat, and asked if they could accommodate you and if you could bring your own food, as this is for your sister's rehearsal dinner. Lying wasn't the way to go about it, at all. Bring your own food? To a fine dining restaurant? Huh? Where have you been before that an establishment was fine with an adult bringing their own food? If kitchen staff is told there's an allergy, they should take it seriously no matter what. If they don't, they shouldn't be kitchen staff, period. As a former server in casual and fine dining restaurants in a major US metropolis, that restaurant is absurd. They give you pasta and fruit. They called in the kitchen crew early to deep clean, but didn't have the foresight to plan the single dish and know which extremely limited items they were planning to use to make it. If the chef is so dubious of his kitchen's cleanliness, I don't think I'd even recommend carnivores eat there. Also, maybe call in a tip to the local health department because it seems like no one in that building has taken a food handler's certification. And my last point is why they would charge the extra amount. Do they do this for every guest with a life-threatening allergy? Because that seems really ableist. Absolutely not the idiot. Yeah, OP's beef should be with her family for not finding a restaurant that could fulfill this need instead of playing chicken with potentially life-threatening allergies that didn't exist. The whole thing sounds a bit fishy, and OP should just pig out at home and eat a side salad versus acting so outlandish. Unfortunately, her family forced her into this situation by not even trying to accommodate her lifestyle. This is the ultimate everyone's the idiot here. My nephew is a rainbow baby. My sister had a lot of trouble conceiving and he was kind of a miracle. She was 42 when she finally managed to give birth. She was on bed rest for the last 3 months of her pregnancy. My nephew is now a young child, and while I love him, he's a monster. He throws tantrums when things don't go his way. He screams if he loses playing a game. He refuses to understand why he can't ride my 7-year-old St. Bernard. And he thinks any food is his. My husband is diabetic and he loves cookies. I found a bakery that makes amazing sugar-free cookies, but they are expensive, so I budget for them because my husband deserves his treats when he gets home from work. My sister was visiting and my nephew ran around like a squirrel. He tripped up and started crying, so my sister picked him up. He saw the cookie container on the counter and started asking for some. I said no, that they were special cookies for his uncle. I offered him a regular cookie or some fruit, but he got all upset that he was being denied. My sister asked if he could please have a cookie. I relented and gave him one. He took a bite, said it was yucky and threw it on the ground. I was a little upset. A little while later, he came back and asked for another cookie. I said no. My sister said to give him one. I told her no, he wasted the last one. He started screaming that he wanted a cookie. I stood my ground. He eventually went away. The next time he came, he didn't ask. He just went for the container. I grabbed the spray bottle I used to keep the cat off the counter. I gave him a couple of squirts and said, no. He got startled and ran away. My sister said her son isn't an animal to be reprimanded with water. The next time he entered the kitchen, I put my hand on the spray bottle. He didn't even look at the counter and he went away. My sister called my parents to tell on me for treating her kid like that. They're mad at me for not giving in to the poor baby. If your sister wants to let him act like a wild thing, he will get trained like a wild thing. I totally get it. So, let's break this down before some weirdo comes in and tries to make you feel guilty. Your husband has specific needs that can get pricey. As a person with dietary limitations and who lives with others who do as well, I know how unfair the diabetes celiac tax is on a budget-strained house. This kid will get hit so hard by the world, and I legitimately bet this is the first time anyone said this. So, I have two things for you. A golden, not the idiot. Your method of enforcing boundaries may be a little unorthodox, but it was effective and hilarious. It's not the kid's fault, it's the mother's. So when she fails to discipline him, grab the spray bottle and squirt her until she controls her kid. If your sister can't get her kid to understand that your house has rules for a reason and that you're unable to afford, financially or from a stress perspective, her excessive spoiling of that kid, simply ban them from coming over. You have every right to protect your home, your sanity, your cookies, and quite frankly, I hope it makes her angry if you do it, so she's forced to realize the way she's raising, or not raising, her child harms others. I, a single mom of two, hired a babysitter after I started working a new job. I used to work from home for 2 years. My kids are both young children. The babysitter is nearly adult female. She brings her laptop with her to study, which is perfectly okay with me as long as she keeps an eye on the kids. Yesterday I came home and the babysitter showed me her laptop that got broken by my youngest. I was shocked. I asked how this happened and she said that she left the laptop in the living room and went to make the kids lunch, but my youngest grabbed it and ran with it till he dropped it and broke the screen. I said that was horrible and apologized to her, but stated it was her fault for leaving the laptop within reach of the children. She said she thought my kids were old enough to know not to touch others' stuff. I explained how they might have thought it belonged to us since it was in our house. She asked if I could pay for it to get fixed, but I refused and insisted it was her problem, not mine. She ranted about having exams soon and not having enough money to fix it. We argued, and I had to tell her to go home after she persisted. Later on, I got a call from her dad, basically blaming the whole thing on me and demanding I pay to get the laptop fixed, but I still refused. Now she's refusing to come unless I pay for the laptop repair, even though I paid her in advance to watch the kids. You are the idiot. You pay for what your kids destroy. That's part of being a parent. End of story. And yes, your kids are old enough to know not to touch and run around with other people's electronics. It happened in your home and was done by your child. Pay up. Or maybe she can sue you and get it off your home insurance in small claims court. Seriously, OP, what is your logic here? At what age do you think kids should learn not to touch things that don't belong to them? Did you even punish your children for what they did? Are you not concerned that you're raising small humans who think this is acceptable behavior? I think she believes adding the single title to her mother's role negates her from any responsibility. OP, I'm amazed at your gall in insisting the sitter come back and babysit for you when you refuse to take responsibility and pay to get the laptop fixed. Welcome to being a parent. They break it, you pay for it. Get used to it for another 10 to 12 years. I, male 38, let my nephew Nick, 20, and his sister Sadie, 18, move into my old apartment to stay rent-free and focus on college. This isn't a new thing because I've always been close to them and helped them and their parents, my brother and his deceased wife, a lot. This situation started when my wife and I found out that my wife's pre-existing health issues had made her become infertile. This was so devastating for the whole family, not just us. My wife told me about a series of calls she received via our landline. She said the caller would play a recording of baby noises and phrases like "mama" every single time. We get at least 4 or 5 calls a day, and I've listened to the last 2 of them. All had the same baby sounds. We figured it was someone mocking my wife's fertility issues, but didn't know who it was because we told many people about it. I told my friend about it, and he was able to identify the caller as my nephew Nick and then my niece Sadie. I was in shock, and it took me some time to believe what I was told. After it was confirmed, I just broke down and went to the apartment and confronted them. They denied it till I threatened to evict them. They said they did this as a prank directed at my wife, not me, and they thought it was to get her to laugh. I called them idiots because my wife did not laugh. She cried her eyes out every time we got those awful prank calls. I told them I wanted them out of my damn apartment and gave them eviction papers. They freaked out and started pleading with me till I left. They had my brother call me later to ask about what was happening. I told him, and he started apologizing on their behalf, saying they were kids just messing around, not realizing what they were doing. He went on about how evicting them will affect them and him since he's struggling with his own situation. I said I know he's a widower, he's struggling, but my decision will stand. He started begging me to let it go and promised to have Nick and Sadie grovel with apologies, but I refused. Now my parents got involved, saying the kids' dad is choosing to have nothing to do with them if they get evicted, and noted that the kids look up to me and I shouldn't let what happened ruin our relationship. Not the idiot. Sorry, any reasonable 18 and 20-year-olds would know this was not a funny prank. They do not get to live rent-free in your space while simultaneously being cruel to your wife. They need to learn that actions have consequences. They wouldn't hide behind anonymity if it was supposed to make her feel better. They don't feel bad, they just don't want to face any consequences. They tormented a woman taunting her about her infertility. Who the heck thinks this is a prank? I know pranking is just a term for bullying and humiliation, but who doesn't get that there's a line? There's no "they're just kids," as they are cruel morons who deserve to be evicted. I hate "don't let it ruin the relationship you have." What relationship? The one where I put a free roof over their heads and they repeatedly traumatize my wife and me over our most vulnerable emotional pain? Yeah, it'd be a shame to let go of something so special. You should seriously rethink your relationships with all of these people, as they are beyond the pale to support such cruelty, and the nephew and niece should probably be dead to you in the future. There's something seriously wrong with them. I, 22 male, was adopted when I was around 2 years old. Not that I can actually remember, but that's what my parents say. By my darling mama, 52, and my loved papa, 52. They had 2 kids before me and 1 after me, but never treated me any differently. My parents are now divorced, but I still have a great relationship with them both. All I know from my past is a letter my bio dad wrote for me. He was 15 at the time I was born, and in the letter he said that it hurt him to give me up and promised to find me. I was handed this letter when I turned 12, and because of my parents' love and care, I never felt like looking for my bio parents. In May of this year, my papa called me, I don't live with any of my parents anymore, saying that my bio dad reached out to him to meet me. He claimed to be dying to meet me. Papa was requesting my permission to let him know my address or set up a meeting at a cafe or something. I didn't accede at first, but my papa encouraged me to do it, so I did. To my surprise, he was waiting for me with a woman who claimed to be my bio mom. They hugged and kissed me and we sat down to talk. They explained the circumstances that made them give me up. Basically, they were kids without their parents' support. They told me a little bit about their lives now, so basically they're not together. They remarried. My bio dad married a man and they have 2 daughters together. My bio mom married her husband and had a boy, so we talked about our lives the whole afternoon. They seemed to be nice people in their late 30s and not the monsters I thought they were. Anyway, I thought that it'd be the first and last time we saw each other. I was taking it as a closure. Like 2 weeks later, my bio dad sent me a text saying that he couldn't sleep since he met me and was desperate to meet me again and introduce me to my family, his husband and kids. Still, I let him know it was closure to me and not the opening of a new relationship, since I already have my family and he has his family. He seemed sad but accepted my wish for a while. My bio mom did something similar too, expressing her wish that I'd meet her husband and son. They stopped trying to meet again for a while, but started again in August. They started sending me texts about how much they loved me and wanted to meet again, and they also started sending gifts to my papa's house. They don't know where I live. My dad encourages me to give them a chance and meet their families, but I know my mom isn't comfortable with that idea and I don't want her to feel betrayed by me. I decided I had enough, so I sent them a text requesting them to stop making things up and just give up on me because I already have 2 parents and they should return to their loved and wanted families, and I just blocked them. My dad and friends say I was too rude and I should apologize, but my mom thinks it was okay since they chose to disrespect my boundaries. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. I don't think they're bad people for giving you up, especially since they admitted that they couldn't have given you a good life. However, that doesn't mean you owe them anything either. If you don't want a relationship with them, that's your right. They aren't entitled to you because they made you. With that being said, you told them each how you felt nicely once, so you were within your right to be more aggressive about it the second time. Agree, this isn't something that can be forced on you. It seems that they've romanticized the idea of you for 22 years. Hopefully they'll stop harassing you now and get therapy to deal with the loss they're both grieving. You have to do what feels right for you. There is no right or wrong with this. Your bio family gave you up. When they did that, they gave away any rights they had, including having a relationship with you. The cold fact is, they aren't your family. You have a family. You are the idiot, just for how you phrased that last message. You had one meeting with them and you all left on a high note. Unfortunately, they perhaps naively believed that afterward, you just needed to be convinced that they were really serious about wanting to have a relationship with you. You could have just reiterated that while you understand their feelings, you're really not looking for a relationship. Instead of a seemingly resentful, go back to the family and people who actually love you. It's so cold.